Hi, everyone. Welcome back to part 3 of our webinar, The Revenue Stack, Strategy Development and Data Done Right. I'm your moderator, Amanda Ortega, here today with Eric Holtzclaw, CEO and founder of Liger, Sam Zeises, CEO and founder of LRND, and Johnny Singleman, CEO and founder of Blu Mountain. Thanks for being here, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. We're talking about AI not itself, but we're talking about how it gives false confidence without expertise a lot of times. And it sounds like you guys, as the experts, need a talk track on how does AI actually help the expert rather than how does it replace the expert. Okay. So how does AI actually help? So Johnny, I know you've given us some examples already, but what would you summarize to say that how AI helps from your angle?
Yeah, I mean, for our business, we use it in a number of different ways. And I think that AI has brought the light to automation in a lot of ways. Like people are misconstruing what has historically been automation through Zap or Make, or any of these other tools that have been out there for a long time. And it's brought a lot of attention to these tools, which is great, and more investment in these tools, which is great because that's the lanes that we play in. From our perspective, we use it on a daily basis to be able to provide better services to clients right out of the gate. And we use it to be able to just keep hours within reason. So for data cleanup projects, if we're building an inbound workflow that helps someone respond to messages faster, when someone submits a sales form on their website, we're going to pre-draft the messaging with AI. And we're going to do that not because we think that that's 100% the best case out there, but it's a good starting point. And it's something that you can kind of start with and then be able to work off. So we use it in that capacity. We're also using it to guide. We're building a really big back end to our system right now, where we're able to run more deep research, insights, and analysis to be able to more predictably identify things that are broken inside of systems, so that we can then go and then be able to recommend strategic things before the team even knows that it has happened. So practically on a day-to-day, I mean, we're using it in a number of different ways to augment our operations and reduce time to value and keep costs manageable. And long-term, our focus and our visibility is to be able to use it to be able to just continue to increase service value. From a client's perspective, I think it's a multiplier, but I think it has to be done in the right capacity. And I think I think that just thinking that you can completely replace departments is kind of a funny thing that I see all the time. People just saying, we need more AI. We need more AI. And it's like, okay, but talk to me about what that use case is. They're like, we need more AI. And you're like, okay, so you don't actually understand what that means.
The problem, you see these guys on X, Twitter, the one guy that has the $1 billion company with no employees and all agents, right. That is the get rich quick schemes of forever, right? Yeah. I mean, for every one of those, and it's so hard because when your feed is full of these tech bros that, are building in public and saying that they're doing 10 million of monthly recurring revenue with no employees. And it's like, believe them, like you do, all these people posting pictures of their brokerage accounts and, you get the idea, during the meme stock days, right? Made $10 million today.
With the yacht behind them and just
right
there. Yeah, exactly. So Eric, how about you? Where do you feel like AI is starting to make a difference to help the experts from the Liger perspective?
I mean, it's helpful in the fact for Johnny, it's the stuff that you never really should have done anyway. It's the stuff that's kind of the work that needs to get done, but it's harder to do than it should be. And, or I love it when we're working with a new client, and one of the first things AI kind of surprised me about is it was a new technology I'd never heard of, and it taught me about it in 2 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I know what it is. I didn't have to go look at a bunch of sites and figure it out. And now I can go into this discovery or this call and I've got it. What I believe very strongly is that, we're in this world of people, we've kind of we could wax poetic about community and like, we don't bring people together to work any longer. And there's like, we're probably moving more into like a solopreneur or small company kind of focus where people are experts. But getting these companies and getting them in a room, getting the human beings in a room to talk about what is the strategy and get people to agree versus passing a bunch of documents back and forth. And you may have read one word differently than I did. And now we don't know. And, reading the room, I love to read a room, like the people who tell you they're agreeing, but really they're not. Like that's the part that, you can use AI to get you to those points and then use those points very purposefully to collect, to understand, to make sure you're aligned so that way, as you move forward, everyone's rowing in the right direction. I mean, the fact that people believe that they're now empowered, they can go rogue really easily on some of the stuff. And you need alignment, you need clarity. That's Amanda's word for the year, clarity. What is the clear place we're headed? And can I press you as another person who's a part of my team to agree with me on that's what it is and what it's going to look like? And that requires in-person, tough Brene Brown conversations. The story you're telling me is this. And that is not replaceable, in my opinion, anytime soon until the AI world is running itself. Like they're the ones starting the businesses and, they're having those conversations. So I like that it gets rid of some of the grunt work, right? Like I wish when I had my research company, if we'd had AI, I would have made $1 billion because the amount of time it took us to analyze and look at, the interviews and identify patterns, but it still takes someone to then take it and pressure test it, right? And take it back out and look at it. So removing the things we should never have been doing.
Yeah, I like that. I know we all know in this business that common phrase, good, fast, and cheap, pick two. So are we still picking two in this AI world, or what does doing it right actually look like compared to doing it fast and cheap? Let's start with you, Sam, on this one.
Thanks. Yeah. Good, fast, and cheap. I think that was the subject of one of my recent Learned Intelligence newsletters. I think the idea that you can do things good, fast, and cheap, which is unique. I do think it's possible, but I think the start of that is to first make sure you're aiming in the right direction. Because to all the reasons we've spoken about, right, just because it's easy to get started doesn't mean you should, especially to Eric's point, if you're off by 1%, that's a meaningful 1%. So a few key points on AI. First off, I think there was a stat that 30% of code suggestions are accepted without anybody even looking at them. And there's a lot of risk with doing that. If nothing else, quality control, security, liability, context, right? All of these, let's go to the website for all of these systems inevitably are connecting to other systems and more systems and are underlined and underpinned by different pieces of code and hosting environments, right? Such that changing one thing in code inevitably will impact something else by design, and just as often not by design, or at least not by desire. So, I think just right out of the gate, making sure that there's human quality control and intervention, because these agents and bots don't yet have that 360 capacity in nature. In terms of how we're using AI to accelerate, it's incredible for automation. It's incredible for idea generation and for inspiration and for education. A better Encyclopedia Britannica, to age some of us on the line. Frankly, a better Google, right? And that's why Gemini is sort of taking over in terms of all the search traffic, and AI search is becoming such a big buzzword. By the way, add that to the list of things you now need to be an expert in, the new SEO frontier, if you will. So I do think better, faster, cheaper does apply. But I think, as Jensen Young from NVIDIA said, to Jack Dorsey's laying off 4,000 employees at Square, that's so uncreative and unimaginative. Repurpose those people to do higher value work to accelerate, as opposed to just laying them off. We're not going to, we're freeing people up to do work that will add more value to the bottom line.
Yeah, it sounds like faster is cheaper, looks cheaper, right? It just looks cheaper when you're doing it if you're using AI for execution. But like you said, it's connected to a lot of other things, and there's some kind of governance that needs to come out of all of this, because this cheaper, faster thing might become expensive later. And like you said, quality, all of those things need to be there needs to be some kind of oversight. So Eric, what do you think about that? What does doing it right versus fast look like?
Well, I mean, this is probably the old guy in me, but I think it like mostly AI feels faster, cheaper, but barely better. And it's only better if somebody knows for a fact it's better. That's the problem. Like that's the problem. The thing I worry about people who are up and coming in the space, because you get something and it's not right, and then you just use your own systems to fix it versus going back and explaining why it's not right. Like this is off. And I go back to that clarity, 1 degree off. My favorite analogy about starting a business with somebody is you need to make sure you're both going on the same skiing trip. Because if I say skiing, some of you think of snow skiing and some of you think of water skiing. And if you say skiing to AI, it doesn't know the difference. So like it builds you a great itinerary to go skiing, but I didn't want to go snow skiing. I don't like it. I don't like to be cold. I want to go water skiing, right? So how do we think about it within that context, make sure it's right? So I lean towards it being faster and cheaper right now. I don't know that I always 100% believe it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think good, fast, and cheap are the perfect words to talk about the sequencing that you should use to deploy AI. So good is the first thing. You have to make sure that the thing is good, and then you need to figure out how to make it faster, and then you need to figure out how to make it cheaper. It shouldn't be the opposite order, right? And so for us, good is like ideating, flow charting, breaking that out, having a project management cycle, as I'm sure a lot of people are on this call have run a similar process, building, QAing, then deploying, training, enabling, iterating, right? That's the life cycle of a project in the world that I live in. And so if you just try and compress all of that and say it should be faster and cheaper, like do it better, like then you don't test, right? And what happens when you don't test? Then the thing doesn't work, or you send something stupid to someone. And then if you do that, then all of a sudden you hurt your relationship with your client. And to Eric's point, you have, the 1%, using that analogy, like you don't have that much time. You have to make sure that you do things right from the start. And if you miss by 1%, that could be you miss earnings, you miss metrics for your role. That could be your job. That could be the business output. I mean, You want to make sure that you do things right and you do things the right way wherever you can. And I feel like optimizing is where you want to go. Great. Everyone understands that. But if you don't do it right, then what are we doing here?
Optimizing. Yeah. And it's interesting. I love that framework that you're saying first good, then fast, then cheaper. And that's exactly, Sam, at the beginning of our time here, you were explaining that that's what your clients look like. They have proven good. They've gotten to a place where they've got the word of mouth, they've got the referrals, they've built a great product that sells itself. Now they're ready to scale. So it just sounds like a good fit. Maybe they'll be able to understand that in that context.
Johnny, I just want to throw some kudos. There's a sports radio show I listen to where they have an award at the end of the show called Point God. Who made the best point of the call? I think the last comment of yours is the point God of the show today. I think that's going to be a pull quote, and I think that's the one to clip on YouTube and go viral.
That's how I think all three of us should go to market together. We should do like a branding under that, just like, and that's how we look at it, right? Because it's good. All three of us look at it from a different perspective of what's good. How do we do it faster, and then we can get to cheaper? Because that's great.
I'll humble brag for a minute and then Amanda, please. The amount of coaching that I do to my team, I love it. I enjoy it. The mentoring, the coaching. That's what I call it, leading, by example. But I always sort of remind people when the clients inevitably, like we all have, are asking, when am I seeing this? When is this going to be done? Right. And I remind them, people remember what you do well, not what you do fast. And so we have to balance their expectation. It's our job to set expectations and educate them that, not say you'll have it on Tuesday, but, have enough of experience having done these things to say, we'll check in with you on Tuesday, but wouldn't, I think we all know the clients want it done right, not fast. And I think they have a misconception about, frankly, they just don't know what it takes to do it right. So it's our job to tell
them. It sounds like they're looking for something. We're all looking for something worth scaling.
Yeah.
And that's what your clients are doing with their business. And it's what you're trying to do with your pieces of their business. So,
yeah, Sam, building on that, I like how you look at it. I look at it also from the perspective of like, when there's one mistake, like there's that one mistake, the client starts to pay attention to so many other things that they weren't paying attention to because they found this one thing. And it's like, now they're going to judge, now we got to rebuild it, right? Like there's a thing that went out and all of a sudden they're going to look at everything and they start to look at stuff that really isn't that important in that state category. So you have to be careful about it. You need to make sure that you're still putting some good rigor to that delivery. And I like the analogy too, because we talk about the companies we're moving into are profitable, but maybe not progressing. They're profitable. They're just not progressing. So how do we get them up across that? And you have to break something typically to get you to that next level. So how do we break how they're thinking about it, what the systems are to allow them to move up? EOS calls it hitting the ceiling. They've hit the ceiling and they don't know how to get up to the next level.
Yeah.
Great
They
point.
have to learn from failure again. They have to be beginners again. And that's hard when you're succeeding, but we don't learn anything from success, do we? So
my team sometimes on sales calls tells me to shut up because sometimes I'm too practical, pragmatic, and I undersell so hard because I wear my feelings on my sleeve. I'm direct and honest, but I tell any prospective client, like we are going to fuck up and timelines will be missed. Where you'll appreciate that is because we'll always come out in front of it and figure out how to fix one of two problems that we can solve, which is people or process, right? We're not going to act like problems don't come up, but if they do, we'll commit to working with people and fixing process. That's
great. Yeah, you only learn through failure. So anyone that thinks otherwise hasn't really failed enough. And Johnny, I think one of the third categories of failure could be the data. The data isn't where it needs to be. So that's always going to be one thing that holds us all back. Okay. So what's next? So when we're looking ahead, here we are in this crazy time where everything's accelerating so quickly. Looking ahead 6 to 12 months, what does a truly integrated revenue engine start to look like as people get a little less enchanted with AI slop and a little bit more disciplined in building the right thing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the companies that do it and do it well will go a lot faster because they'll already have kind of that foundational element put in place. The people that try and cut costs or do things quicker, whatever it is, will fall behind a little bit in their experimentation. So like tangibly, what does that look like? On the sales side, I think sales seems to be going towards more of a signal-based outreach approach. So having marketing signal to sales who to reach out to, that could be through lead scoring, intent signals, drafting icebreakers, depending on what's going on and how the person's engaging. That sort of thing on the sales side seems to me what we're going to start to see on that side. On the marketing side, I feel like the hope is that AI can help teams deploy more relevant and thoughtful content quicker. One of the interesting areas that I see is people integrating a lot of their unstructured data, their email data, their call data, and be able to use that to pipe into content and be able to use that to inform content. I think that's a super interesting area right now, but I think marketing driving more signals to sales. And then on the servicing side, I think a full customer 360 where you have all of your service related information, your tickets, all your billing information. If there's a product, all of your product related information all in one centralized view, that's driving the customer success or account management activity. Those to me feel like feel like a fully integrated system where all of the pieces are fully aligned and connected and talking to one another. And I feel like if you have that, as AI becomes more and more interesting and as automation becomes more and more interesting, you're going to be incredibly well positioned for the future.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. That's that helping the expert versus removing the expert from the conversation. Because when I think about customer experience or delivery, I think about it just has to be human to human. So if the machines can help facilitate a better, more contextual, more empathetic relationship between those two humans, I think business will thrive. So what do you think about the next step, Sam, 6 to 12 months from now? What does this integrated revenue engine look like?
Oh, I have so many thoughts, but since it seems like this is part of the closing arguments, I'll try to summarize it here. This is just making me think of a real life example where we have two clients that are in the exact same industry whose businesses, for all intents and purposes, looked exactly the same 10 years ago. And we've been lucky enough to have had a relationship with both of these clients for that long. One of those clients took an 8-year gap with us. Started with them 10 years ago, did 2 years, set up their infrastructure, and they got too busy. The leaders of the company were too busy servicing accounts and not thinking about marketing as a revenue engine or their website as a revenue engine. The other client has not skipped a month, with the exception of literally 1 month during COVID, where they were just disorganized and needed to deal with some internal stuff, but immediately made it clear that they were committed to us and to their website and their marketing as a critical part of anything they do. And they'd been around long enough such that they were confident they'd make it through the COVID times. We have made such unbelievable, incremental, sophisticated progress with that client that's been with us consistently. And when that other first client came back to us a couple of years ago after the 8-year gap, it was so glaring how far behind they were relative to their website sales revenue. It's a B2B company, and Johnny has worked with them with us, and I'm sure I've given Eric some background also. And it took every ounce of restraint for me not to say, "I told you so," relative to their business. But I think, to answer you directly, it comes down to people and the way the companies are led by those people. The companies that have people that have a culture of understanding infrastructure and the value of every piece of their business, as opposed to the ones that are short-sighted and focused on, what do I need to do right now? I think for us, software, the tools will always evolve. And as long as I'm running the company, I'll always commit to pushing my team to use them to the best of their ability, and all the values that come with us as a good partner, being trustworthy, reliable. But from a client standpoint, I think this is an opportunity. I think, to Johnny's point, the haves are going to have more and the have-nots are going to have less, because the companies that have the culture of innovation and investment and in growth and understand that their website is a revenue driver and an engine and not a cost center, to Eric's point also, inevitably they've already had their foot on the gas, and they've already engaged smart consultants, and they will continue to pull ahead, and those other companies will inevitably get further and further behind. And I'm just excited to have such great partners to work with great clients, equally great clients, because it's a lot of fun when the companies are led by great clients, great people, great leaders that allow us as experts to come together and do really great work. And do it in a way with integrity and with an eye towards growth for all parties.
Wow, that's amazing. When you're talking about that, I was thinking about in my product innovation days, good and great. What's the difference between good and great, right? Like a Kmart and a Target. What's Eckerd Drugs and Walgreens, I guess is good. I don't know, but what is the difference in a category between good and great? And it sounds like you said, prioritizing and investing in the things that are going to make you great and keeping innovation in the forefront is one of those things. What do you think, Eric, about this whole context of return on investment for marketing, the ROMI, the return on marketing investment in the future conversations of this integrated revenue engine?
Yeah, so defining the word marketing more broadly, marketing is this touch point that's not just getting leads to the door, it goes across, which, both Johnny and Sam talked about. But that's such an important part of it, because if I love a brand, I'm there and ready to do business, and then I start doing business with the brand, and the brand promise that was made during that experience doesn't exist, I'm not going to stay, I'm going to move on. So how do you think about marketing more broadly? How do you understand that it's all of these moments that matter, the touch points, and being there in a way that the customer doesn't expect? I love it when a brand delights and surprises me. I mean, I love brand just in general, like the idea of knowing that the color choices they've made, the way they make you feel, or the way that they don't, or when they try to steal something from someone else and you're like, yeah, this is completely inauthentic. So understanding authentically who you are as a company, where you're headed, what is the clarity around that, and then making sure it's expressed fully through all of the different components of what your marketing ecosystem should look like, which includes your people, your culture, like your customer, all those things. That is going to be increasingly important. And I'm so glad it is, because I felt for a while that marketing became this like gaming the system. It's like, oh, if I do the right keywords and I set the right thing, then I can drive people through, which you could, and you might convert them, but you wouldn't keep them. And so now we have this opportunity to go back to what marketing should be.
Right.
The fun part of it.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think it's relationships, a lot of it, and trust, and some of those old school things that you can't make with machines.
Yeah, the reason that you stick with some group or trusted advisor you've had for years, because you have the right relationship. Good brands establish relationship.
That's right. As you know, Eric, I'm an Airbnb owner, and there's a wonderful book that I would recommend for anyone called Unreasonable Hospitality. That might be a good one. I know it's not about AI, it's not about any of these things we're talking about, but it really is how I deliver in my Airbnbs and also in my marketing strategy. But it's just having a great value proposition that's unique and thoughtful and being trustworthy. And when you F up, fixing it, right, Sam?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Without a doubt. By the way, they just came out with the handbook version of that, which I was just gifted. If you're so interested,
I love
how people
those.
can practice it.
Yeah, it is in my heart and soul. It's like through my bloodstream. I just love hospitality, but it's the same with our clients, right? How are we serving their businesses? How is their business serving their clients? And keeping things authentic and real, because you can't trick anybody anymore. So in closing, I do want to give you guys a minute to kind of pause and think about this. I just want to, thank you all for joining us. And I feel like the biggest takeaway from today, modern growth, it does not come from adding more disconnected tools or taking too much of a confident approach with new, faster tools. It comes from creating alignment, with the strategy, the systems, the data, the execution, bringing people into a room. You still got to get marketing and sales on the same page. And, while AI may accelerate execution, clarity is still an advantage, and we need to bring people back to that clarity. So what would be a parting thought from each of you? And you can take a minute to kind of think about that for our sales and marketing leaders who are tuning into this content today.
It's just people and process. This is just new tools, same dog, new tricks, same dog. I don't know, whatever analogy, metaphor you want to use. All the same business principles apply. And, I think between Eric, Johnny, and myself and our respective firms, it's been magical working on projects and seeing the success of our shared clients, because that's why we got into this business. We like to make an impact on our clients. And so far it's been really rewarding to see the impact of the work that we've all done together.
Yeah, I think building a business is hard. And business is incredibly challenging. Don't make it harder. Keep doubling down on the things that work, hire really good people, and work with really good partners. And if you can use AI to augment that or any other technology, any other automation, fantastic. But just like focus on the things that work, double down on those things, and you'll be well positioned for the future.
I love that. No shiny object. Don't get distracted. Eric?
Nothing will replace a big, beautiful blank whiteboard and a bunch of people on it.
And a working session led by you.
Clean.
Yes.
So start there, maybe instead of your AI prompts. Like, why don't you start there? Like, if we filled this whiteboard with where we're headed, and you've got people bought into the story, the alignment, they're not just reading some black and white thing that's been created by a fake brain. So get some people together, and then you can start to use the AI and some of the tools to bring that to life, and you at least have established a common North Star.
I love that. A common North Star. It sounds so clear. Clarity. Well, I want to thank you guys today. I hope we get to do this again. It's been a lot of fun to bring you partners together who all create this system, the working system, the integrated revenue engine that isn't sluggish and isn't, garbage in, garbage out, like all the other projects out there. Thank you for caring about integrity, caring about your clients, and all of the great output that is going to help them grow in their business. So thank you for your time today.